Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Welcoming Dr. Buss to the Hall of Fame are three Laker legends, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Pat Riley. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jerry Buss.
The Los Angeles Lakers is one of the most iconic franchises in professional sports, and that's thanks in large part to Jerry Buss, who bought the team in 1979. Here he is at his Hall of Fame induction ceremony some 3 decades later.
After 2 years of endless negotiations, I purchased the Los Angeles Lakers. What a dream come true.
It was a package deal that included the LA Kings, the Great Western Forum, and a 1,300-acre ranch. Buss paid the media mogul Jack Kent Cooke $67 million, which would be about $300 million today. And at the time, he promised to give Angelenos a team worthy of Tinseltown.
He was one of the more flamboyant sports owners out there who just took a lot of pride in running the team and having stars and being at the epicenter of Los Angeles.
Randall Williams covers the business of sports for Bloomberg, and he says Jerry Buss transformed the Lakers.
The game ends. The Lakers have won it again.
Showtime is the slogan that became synonymous with the team's style, on and off the court. Over 3 decades, Buss revolutionized professional sports. He hired an in-house band, created the Lakers Girls, and he signed a series of superstars.
He liked to win, and so with him loving to win as much as he did, he spared no expense to bring in the best of players. I mean, you think about all the Lakers stars over the years, whether that be Magic Johnson, Kareem, James Worthy, Kobe, Shaq, now LeBron and Luka. All of these people are embedded into the culture of Los Angeles, and Jerry Buss was someone who he wanted to be like, I brought this.
Randall says Jerry Buss empowered his players and some legendary coaches, including Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, to do what the Lakers did best, to win. The team had 11 championships and more than 30 playoff appearances in 46 years.
The Los Angeles Lakers have made it 3 straight NBA championships.
How much is the franchise today a direct result of the way he approached the team?
It's 100%. The brand identity, the value, the city, the winning. I mean, you could argue that they are the number one sports brand in America over the Yankees and the Cowboys. Now, there would be some very angry Yankees fans and Cowboys fans out there, of course, but the Lakers are top 3, and I'd say they're not 3.
What accounts for that? I've got a 6-year-old boy, and he was insistent that he get a Bronny jersey, which I thought was so wild. Here we are in New York, but that's like in the zeitgeist. So how did that happen? How did this team get that kind of cultural currency?
I think it's just stars and winning. Stars winning and a lot of culture. Like, you look at who's on the Lakers sidelines, you listen to the way that NBA players, celebrities talk about wanting to be at Laker games. The Lakers have won a championship in just about every decade. And they haven't done it in a way that's quiet. It's like with the biggest stars. You think of the 80s, it was Magic, who at the time, he was considered a GOAT, and he still is to some degree. And then you have an international star in Luka. They just keep ushering in these stars.
For almost half a century, it's also been a family business, majority owned by Jerry Buss until his death in 2013, and by his children after that. The Buss name was synonymous with the Laker brand until now.
The Buss family has agreed to sell a controlling interest in the Los Angeles Lakers to the current owner of the LA Dodgers. Mark Walter, chief executive officer of Guggenheim Partners, will assume majority ownership. Late last week, Buss's 6 children decided to sell their stake in the Lakers to the CEO of an investment and advisory firm for a record $10 billion.
$10 billion is a huge number, but they might have gotten more on the open market. This may be looked at in, let's say, a decade from now, that this was a deal. $10 billion was a deal, which is insane to think about.
I'm David Gura, and this is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. Today on the show, what this record-setting sale of the Los Angeles Lakers to a billionaire investor says about the business of sports today, and what it could mean both for the future of pro sports and for fans. When Jerry Buss died in 2013, ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers went to his 6 children. His daughter, Jeannie, who who'd been overseeing basketball operations, eventually became the team's president and controlling owner. In the years since, the team, which had dominated the NBA's Western Conference, has fallen behind other franchises, winning a single title with LeBron James in 2020. Bloomberg's Randall Williams says that's due in part to how much the Lakers owners have been willing to spend.
The new version of the Buss family, from what I've been told, is that they are extremely frugal. They don't spend on the things that maybe the rest of the NBA does. And you see that in the way that these things are valued. If you look at Sportico's valuations or Forbes or CNBC, I'm pretty sure all of them have the Warriors and Knicks slightly ahead of the Lakers. And you could argue that's because over the last decade, the Lakers maybe have not invested into things the same way that the Warriors and the Knicks have. The Warriors have a new stadium. They had probably the most transformational basketball player ever in Steph Curry. They won 4 titles and 6 finals appearances, and so they were always at the center. For the Lakers, it took until LeBron James got back, and then their title was in the bubble, so no parade. And so the way that they have carried this business is not the way that you are going to be as most profitable.
Let's talk about the deal, and it's hard to get past that headline number, but at this point, what do we know about the terms of it?
Jeannie Buss, who is Jerry Buss's daughter, is going to stay on as governor of the team, and what that means is that she's going to have a day-to-day role in managing things. Okay. So the governors of the team attend the Board of Governors meetings. They vote on various things. So Mark Walter is still going to be the owner of the team, but he's not going to be at all these meetings. Now, I'm sure he's going to be well informed, and he's going to be spending his dollars wisely to bring in different free agents to, I'd say, diversify the business. We don't know exactly how the deal is structured just yet. We just know that they agreed to a $10 billion purchase, and at some point, Mark Walter will take over, but it's not going to be for the foreseeable future.
Who is Mark Walter? I mean, he doesn't have the kind of lore or legend of Jerry Buss, certainly, and he's now kind of fashioned himself as this kind of king of LA sports.
Well, he's an extremely rich guy. Let's start there. He started Guggenheim Partners, which made all his money there, and then eventually purchased the Dodgers. And for LA natives, this is a great sign because Mark Walter has spared no expense to spend on the Dodgers.
To introduce the newest member of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani.
Wearing the iconic Dodgers uniform for the first time after signing an unprecedented $700 million contract.
Now you bring someone like him into the Lakers, and what this means, this isn't going to affect salary cap. You're not going to be able to pay players more than anybody else, but you might be able to renovate a training facility. You might be able to invest more money into the Crypto.com arena. You're just going to be able to spend more cash to make LA an even more desirable market than it already is. I mean, a lot of people come to LA because it's okay, it's the stars, it's the lore of the Lakers. And now you have an owner who is going to be like, yeah, I want to win. I still want to win. And I'm not going to stop spending money until I get back to the top.
We know he's a billionaire. Is he going to pony up all this himself, or is it still kind of unclear how this is going to be structured in that sense?
How it's come out there in the release is that it's him.
Wow.
It's him. Now, in terms of where this money is coming from, $10 billion is a lot of money. The Bloomberg Billionaire Index has him worth at $12.5 billion. I can't imagine that he liquidated all of his assets and then bought this thing. Some of it could be on the back end, some of it could be on the front end. We're not exactly sure yet, but this will go to the Board of Governors. We may find out more a little bit then, but I don't think anybody's really concerned with it. So long as it gets approved, people are going to be like $10 billion, and no one's going to want to pay any more than that.
I'm reluctant to ask this because I feel like a few months ago everyone was saying the same thing about the Celtics sale, which is this a signifier that we've reached peak valuation of a franchise like this? Does it feel like the peak to you?
No. It doesn't feel like the peak to me, but it does slow things down just because of the fact that the Lakers don't own their stadium. And that's a huge, huge factor in this because of the fact that if you don't own your stadium, then you don't get the revenue from things that aren't related to basketball. So concerts, festivals, anything that you host in the arena, you're not going to see money from. With that in mind, if the Celtics went for 6 and the Lakers go for 10, then I do think that when the NBA eventually decides to expand, if the next team is sold, you're going to have a lot of billionaires and rich people out there who are going to look at the Lakers and like, I don't want to pay that much. You look at the last, let's say, 5 sales. You had the $3 billion Charlotte Hornets when Michael Jordan sold them. You had the $3.5 billion sale of the Mavericks. You had the $4 billion sale of the Suns. Now that jumps to 6 with the sale of the Celtics. Now that jumps to 10. That's a huge jump. So anyone who's going to be selling, the Trailblazers are for sale right now. I would guesstimate that they go somewhere between 4.5 and 5.5. But if you're the NFL watching this, and the Seahawks eventually have to be put up for sale, so do the Saints, who knows what they go for it?
We've seen this trend of private equity firms and sovereign wealth funds getting involved in professional sports. How is that likely to change the terrain even more here going forward?
You're going to see more private equity across sports, period. Whether people are happy with it or not, they are solution providers. Now, where fans could get concerned is if they ever take control stakes. Now, that's not happening right now. A lot of times they're writing checks and going away. These checks are for stadiums. These checks are for debt on a team. They're for estate taxes when you're passing the team down from one member to the next, those type of things. That's what private equity is looking to solve. The NBA has some of the most flexible rules out there where a team can have up to 30% owned by private equity. One single private equity firm can own 20, but obviously you could split that up in 3, you could split it up in 2. There's a bunch of different ways you could split it if someone wanted to do that. However, it would raise concerns within the NBA's board of governors as to why you need that much private equity dollars in a league that's profitable. I do think at some point in time, all of these floors will raise. These rules will become more loose in the NFL specifically. They allow 10%. But you're going to need more because these stadiums are continuing to get older, and there's just not a lot of rich families out there. And as we see what's going on in Chicago right now with the Bears and Kansas City with the Royals and the Chiefs, there are some cities and states who are just like, I'm not paying a dime to build this stadium. And then you're stuck there threatening to move and negotiating, and that's very exhausting. Now, a lot of these families don't want to sell because it's very precious. A, it's a profitable business, and B, it's a prized possession that my parents or grandparents bought this however many some odd years ago. Getting rid of that now is heartbreaking in a sense. And there are some families who may look at it as like, either we failed or we're successful. Now, obviously, there's no failure when you're selling a team for however many $1 billion, but the sentimental value, the emotions that are in this, that's where you see the effect. And private equity dilutes that in some form because eventually they need to exit. And so for fans right now, it's not a concerning time. But in 20, 30 years, it could be.
After the break, how new ownership structures, which can involve billions from private equity firms and sovereign wealth funds, are impacting fans. There's been a string of sales recently in professional sports, and I said to Bloomberg's Randall Williams that they've seemed to signal the end of an era in many of the cities where those teams are based. Let me ask you a kind of cultural question, and that is, if you have the Lakers being sold by the Buses, Grossbeck selling the Celtics, Glenn Taylor selling the Timberwolves, Mark Cuban selling the Mavericks, what's lost when that happens, when you have a longstanding steward of one of these teams giving that to somebody else? What does that change kind of mean for the team and the kind of position it has in these communities?
I think it depends on who's buying and who's selling. Like, Mark Cuban was very influential. Obviously, the Bus family was very influential. But sometimes, like, the owners who come in and own these different things or are buying these teams have a profound impact on the businesses that they have, in large part because they are richer. Like, for example, Josh Harris has come in and completely changed the course of the Commanders. In 2 years, he's built a stadium. They're going to be hosting the draft. Once the stadium is built, they'll probably host a Super Bowl in D.C. There are some owners who would come in, and because the NFL and NBA's business are as profitable as they are, they would just sit back and be like, I own the team. I'm a nice guy. I'm going to go sit back and hide behind the curtain and allow everybody to do their jobs. But sometimes there are influential voices that are lost. When you look at someone like Michael Jordan selling the Hornets, Michael Jordan is arguably the most important sports figure of all time. And he represented an empowerment for athletes to be like, I made so much money that now I'm in the inner circle. Athletes, in large part, are on the outer circle of the billionaires club. And Michael Jordan getting in is like, okay, well, I can now own this. You see LeBron talking about, I want to own the Las Vegas expansion team. Dwayne Wade, I believe, bought into the Utah Jazz at a minority stake. But when Michael Jordan exits, and now you have no black owners, you have no player owners. It impacts, in some ways, the outlook of things. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, Michael Jordan didn't do the best job of running the Hornets by any means, but he provided a lot of sentimental value. He provided a lot of hope for players to be like, wow, Michael Jordan can do this. Maybe I can too.
And when private equity gets involved, what does that mean for the fan experience? Is there a world in which getting a PE firm involved makes tickets less expensive, improves the experience overall?
Well, it depends on how you look at improve. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills, for example. Okay. The Buffalo Bills sold a 10% stake to Arctos Partners, who is arguably the most well-experienced private equity firm out there in terms of sports. Arctos is going to be coming in and in all likelihood are going to be putting that money into the Buffalo Bills' new stadium. Well, when a new stadium gets built, gradually and naturally, those prices for tickets are going to go up because it's a new stadium. They also have an incredible quarterback. They're going to be selling new luxury suites and all sorts of different ticket packages. So in some aspects, yes, it is going to provide a better experience. However, for fans who have been going to the Bills Stadium for however many years, if you're a season ticket holder and these ticket prices go up and now you're priced out, then you could argue that this hurt me because I can't afford this anymore. I'm sure that the NFL and the NBA and the MLB and all of its owners would just say, get your money up.
I'm very curious what this sale says about the state of the business of sports today.
I think sports is in a healthy spot. This is the biggest sale in a very long time. If the Lakers had gone for closer to the Celtics, I still think that it would show health, but the fact that they went for $4 billion more is incredible. I don't want to compare this to the Knicks or to the Cowboys. They would go for more than the Lakers, I would imagine, just because I believe that those sales would be run in a public forum. But for the average fan watching this, this is a good sign. Now, do I think that we are closer to the ceiling now than we were before? Absolutely. And obviously, all of these valuations are tied to media deals. Whatever the next media deal is going to be is inevitably going to raise valuations even more. But the NFL's last media deal was $100+ billion. What is the next one going to be? And so from a big picture aspect, I think sports are in a good spot for the next 15 to 20 years now. Who knows what this is going to look like in 2 decades? Because the Lakers sell for $10 billion right now. What in the world are they going to go for in 15 or 20? And it may not be the Lakers. It could be a smaller team in any of these leagues that fetch a huge number. And then the question arises like, who's going to buy this thing? And goes back to your questions about when does private equity get involved and own teams outright? We're not in that phase right now. But if these things continue to rise and valuations continue to rise, then inevitably you're going to see private equity own 50% stakes. The rules don't allow it right now, but I could see it at some point down the line.
This is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. I'm David Gura. The show is hosted by me, Sarah Holder, Juan Ha, and Saleha Mosin. Aaron Edwards, David Fox, Eleanor Harrison-Dengate, Patty Hirsch, Rachel Lewis-Krisky, Naomi Ng, Julia Press, Tracy Samuelson, Naomi Shavin, Alex Segura, Julia Weaver, Julian Weller, Yang Yang, and Taka Yasuzawa make the show. To get more from The Big Take and unlimited access to all of Bloomberg.com, subscribe today at Bloomberg.com/podcast offer. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Monday.